little internet lag, so I'm gonna hopefully the slides update for everybody, in a good manner. I was noticing seemed like it was taking just a second there to flip over. So thanks everybody for coming out today. We're going to talk about exhaust filtration and some cost savings associated with the different types or sizes of the filter media with our pad or cut pad filters versus our blanket media. So to kind of just give everybody an update on, who Comet is, just in case somebody's tuned in here and isn't familiar with that. We do all of our manufacturing out of our Rockwall, Texas facility. It's located east of Dallas there. We do all of our filter business as well as all of our sheet metal business out of this one location. But when we think about Comet and who Comet is as a company, we look at it as we have three business segments. And our first business segment is our core and catalog equipment, which is spray booths, powder booths, batch ovens, things like that we can put out in a price book for our distribution partners that are easier to manufacture. The engineering has been previously done. They sort of just move straight into the manufacturing process. This is a large percentage of Comet's sheet metal side of the business, but what really takes up our time and what we really like to do would be what we consider our engineered projects or engineered products group, which is our second business segment. And what this is we're talking about more automated process equipment, inline washers, or custom powder booths or custom spray booths, things that require a little more engineering and a little more, product design and things like that. Our third business segment is our RP filtration products, and we'll go a little more into that. And of course, today, that's the segment that we really would like to concentrate on today. But just to kind of talk about the core equipment, just some pictures here, you kind of see a little more what I'm talking about as far as these types of products that we're looking at. On the engineered projects, just some visual cues here of what we're talking about. The booth there for the oil platforms is a very large booth. We believe it's the largest booth in North America. It's a spray booth and a blast booth, and it has temperature and humidity control. That part that you see in the booth there is actually about a 16th of the total area of that level. So you can see exactly how big these oil rigs are. But that's sort of on our engineered products group. But again, to talk more about the RP filtration and that side of our business. So in 2017, Comet acquired the RP paint arresters. And a lot of people say, well, hey, Trey, what's RP? What does that mean? And what it is, it's research products. Research products has been manufacturing slit and expanded paper, for 50, 60 years before we acquired that business. They were the first to innovate the product. And we acquired that division of the company in mid 2017. In 2018, what Comet focused on was bringing all that manufacturing into Rockwall, Texas, into our facility there, and setting all the manufacturing machines up, and we just tried to integrate that process. Over the last couple of years, in 2019 and this year, we've looked to grow and expand, and we brought on some filter specialists. We brought in some new products, some new programs. We've added some sales support and things like that. You may have heard of the Comet 5-year warranty program, and that was a result of a new product that we developed called the W Series, as well as a whole new program associated with that to be able to offer a 5-year warranty on all of our spray booths, everything, even the air makeup units, if we were utilizing a W Series filtration product. So some really cool and exciting things here at Comet have been happening, and we're hoping that goes out and helps a lot of people in their own businesses and makes them become more profitable with our products. To kind of give you an overview of what we're looking to talk about mostly in this presentation here today is we'll just do a quick review of our RP legacy products, and which is the products that were being manufactured and were already created when we acquired the research product line. Our RPW series filters, which are the filters that carry the 5-year warranty along with them. Our filter lock system, which is a very important aspect of our blanket media technology and getting a good seal around those filters. We will talk about converting pad media to blanket media. and some benefits of converting those things, and then just kind of run through some examples together of where we get some time savings and maybe some media cost savings as well, and just a couple of examples. And then we'll just recap on kind of all some of the really neat incentives that we have going on right now for new users, as well as some existing. So to kind of talk about the RP filtration media and the features of that, in case you're not completely familiar with that, is it is a slit and expanded paper filter. It's designed and engineered for an extending life and a great holding capacity because of the layering. Baffling system kind of catches the larger particulate, those marbles and rocks, I like to say, before that gets into our polyester backing. Not all of our filters have a polyester backing. We do offer them just with multiple layers of the paper, but to get that efficiency rating up, catch those more finely atomized particulates, we use the polyester. These filters are manufactured in pads, what you will see there in the bottom left part of the screen, blankets, which would be on the far right side, and bag filtration. So if you hear me say pad filter, that's what I'm talking about, as a 20 by 20 or possibly a 20 by 25 are the most standard for those. But under the legacy line of RP products, we have an extensive product family. And the reason for that is each one has a different paper layering, a different paper orientation design, and even inside that paper, there's different weights of paper. So, there's a lot of different design that goes into these. Sometimes guys say, hey, I tried a paper filter years ago and it just didn't work. And, we always ask, well, what model was it? And they don't know. And they know there was more than one. And there is. And the reason being is because different models of filters are going to perform better with different type of coatings. And we may need, a little more efficient polyester in one application than we do in another. So we have all these different products to help accommodate that. And this is sort of an eye chart to kind of look at, but it lets you understand that we're not just selling one filter and saying that it's going to work in all applications. What we're saying is we have a solution through our extensive product line that we're probably going to be able to satisfy your requirements and your needs. Now, moving into the W series filtration media, it is still the slit and expanded paper. The major difference between the W series and the Legacy series is that it has a white face front, and it uses a virgin polyester, where our Legacy line uses a recycled in most of the product line. This one is all exclusively a virgin polyester, and there's multiple densities of the polyester that we use for the line, but it's still designed for depth loading. It's available in pads and rolls, and just to add to this, also cubes if required. We meet and exceed all of the requirements of the ASHRAE Method 51.2 as modified for paint test. All of the W series are well over 99.5% efficient, and they're available in the pads and blankets. Now, when we talked about all the different models of the Legacy line, what we did with the W series line, because we're offering this warranty with this, and it's going in our booths, and we know a little more about the application, is we've kind of narrowed it down to 3 families of filters. And really what we've done is we've set these are all very high efficient filters, as I said, but we changed some paper layering and some polyester layering. All of the W series filters have additional paper layerings to anything that would be equivalent to it in the Legacy line. And then we definitely have the different polyester. But because of that, we can handle a broad spectrum of coatings with just 3 filter types. Now, anytime these filters are used, you'll notice that we put the 5-year warranty logo there, because we're so confident by the performance of these filters that we can say if they're installed properly and used properly, then we know there's nothing going to happen with the exhaust system or the fans or anything like that. So to move on a little further, I just want to make sure that we're all talking in the same terms. So if I say something that you don't really understand, this is what I'm talking about. So if I say pad filter or cut pad, what I'm talking about is the filters you see to your left, which are a 20 by 20 or a 20 by 25, 24 by 24. Things like that are what you would see common for A pad filter. A pad filter doesn't have a frame inside of it, so that would be called a panel filter. These have to be hooked onto a framing grid or something like that. Now, Comet would supply with their spray booths, or also can be purchased separately. The blanket or roll media, I may say, is what would come in a bag. It's rolled up. They can be cut to length to the particular size that's needed. They can be cut to width, or they can be sent out at a maximum width, 45 inches, and we run them up to 90 foot long, and they can just be cut on site. However, we don't charge any extra for cutting pads. So if we need to cut on the size, that's not an issue. Saves a lot of labor time on the customer side of that. So, but mostly that's what we want to discuss today is our blanket media and the conversion of that from pads. So one critical item that's necessary for the conversion is our new technology called the filter lock system, and we use it to convert the pads to the roll media. It comes in sections that are 40 inches long, and that's because the normal width of a product is it covers 2 filter cells, which for a 20 by 20 would be 40 inches. So that's saying that we're running the covering those 2 spans for that. So it also is has a tool that goes in it that installs the filtration system, as we need to go through that. And converting from that pad filter to roll media here, I have kind of a slide here that kind of demonstrates what a filter chamber looks like with pad filters in it. And you can see that off to your left there. And that is a tower plenum in a large equipment truck booth that was using cut pads. And we converted that tower plenum over to our filter lock and blanket system. And you can see that there to the right. And the really neat thing with the filter lock system is as long as there's a flat surface directly behind where we want to mount it, we can mount it there. There's no special tools or sheet metal adjustments that are really required. It will just fastens right next to that filter grid. If you look on the one on the left that has the cut pads, you'll notice that what we did is we run that filter track just right next to that opening. And then our blanket system, once we've installed that, just installs, right over the top of that. So a 45-inch blanket covers, a 40-inch, 2 20 by 20s, and a 22.5-inch, which would be split right down the middle, is large enough to cover the single row of 20 by 20 and still be able to be tucked into the filter lock track. So hopefully that kind of makes some sense to you and kind of what we're talking about here, and you get a kind of a visual. But the benefits that we see of converting from a pad filter to roll media, the filter lock allows for us to lock in 100% of that blanket. And that's important because when you think of a pad filter that's a 20 by 20, you have a potential area bypass for each one of those 20 by 20s, right, of 80 linear inches. So if the filter wasn't installed properly or, and it created a gap around the side, air takes the path of least resistance. So it's very possible that particulate and an overspray won't go through the filter face at all. It'll divert and go through that opening. Well, what does that mean? Well, that means that all that overspray particulate is going into the exhaust chamber. It's bypassing that filter. It's going through the fan. It's potentially loading up on the blades of that fan, right, which would impact its functionality. And, in long term, sometimes throws the bearings and things like that out of whack because it went out of balance. But it bypasses through there, goes into the atmosphere, potentially lands on cars in the parking lot, things like that. Maybe there was some hazardous, chemicals inside of these coatings that now we've just let get into the atmosphere that we didn't actually catch in our filtration. So with the filter lock system, the reason why we're really trying to demonstrate this is because it's encapsulating that filter on all 4 sides. So any air that goes through the filter media has to go through the booth, has to go through our exhaust filtration. and before it can be evacuated. So that's where it's really great. There's no potential areas of bypass because of that. But also there's some other benefits of using blanket media is that the change-out time can be up to 60% faster, just because of the time it takes to hang a 20 by 20 sail on the little tabs and stretch it and make sure that it's sealed all the way around versus grabbing the blanket, let it hang, and then zipping it into the filter lock system with the filter lock tool. So that lowers the operating cost. That's going to increase production time because the time that may have been spent during filter changeouts is maybe time that can be spent to put it on another coating or run a couple more parts or, depending on the process. And that just means there's more finished products per day, per week, per month, per year that you're getting out just because you're not spending that additional time to change out, the filters. So I want to talk through just some examples of that. And I know there's a lot on the screen right now and don't feel like you have to figure it all. I did the math and I wanted to put it up there to show you. But in our first example here, what we took is an exhaust chamber, industrial exhaust chamber, and let's say it was 8 by 10 high. And in this example, we're saying they're already using Comet RP filters. So they're using a 20 by 20 cut pad, a 20 inch by 20 inch pad. And what you'll see if you look at the time analysis on this is that mostly what's happening is you're saving about 60% in changeout time just based on what it takes to install a filter pad versus the blanket. Now, these numbers, we have a video on our YouTube channel. We'll kind of show that here in a minute, but we have a video on our YouTube channel where we did this timing in our training facility, and I encourage you to check that out. And this is where we kind of come up with these numbers and what it took to install 4 pads versus 1 blanket that would actually cover 8 pads. So that's where this comes from. But the main thing you take away from this slide, even if you're using a Comet pad filter, and if you go to Comet filter blankets, you're going to save 60% on your labor cost, right? So you're gaining not only salaries that you're paying to people to change out filters, but that production time and things like that. So in the cost analysis here, you're not seeing a big, huge difference because we are comparing the same filter just cut as a 20 by 20 versus the same filter that would fit in the blanket for that size. So, it is a little bit of a cost savings, but, not huge at the end of the year, to say, hey, that's the reason why we want to switch because I can save that much money over the year, right? So, but what I want to show you here in our next example is the exact same booth, the exact same filter count, but what we're using is a competitive filter. In our example here, where you're going to use a paint pocket, a 20 by 20 paint pocket, and what you're going to see again is on the labor side is that it's the same as we had before. We're saving that 60% because we're still talking about changing a 20 by 20 pad over to a blanket. Right. And the main thing that I want you to see here is just the cost difference between going to a paint pocket brand versus the RP filtration. So I'm using a W52 here in this example, which would be the filter that we feel is very equivalent to the paint pocket. Even though the paint pocket is a polyester filter and there are a lot of differences in the two, but as far as longevity and efficiency, and things of that nature, the W52 product would be the one that we would compare. So at the end of the year here, you're going to save close to $5,000 if you just had this one little exhaust chamber. The larger this booth becomes and the more filters you're using, the more bottom dollars, that you're saving there at the end of that. So, and I just threw some pricing up here. You may look and say, well, I buy those filters for different prices. And you may buy the RP filter for different prices than I put up here. These are just suggested retail prices from the manufacturer for those. So, that's where these price comparisons are coming from. Now, I believe this next slide's probably trying to load for you guys, but this one here is a big win for an end user. And it's a real life example that we put together. And I wanted to put into this slide because it was a huge win that the end user from working through this. So what happened is this is a lot larger booth. This was a 20 wide by 60 foot long side down draft booth, and they were using a competitive filter, and they were using just a polyester pad, a 1 inch, polyester pad, very inexpensive, and they were running with that. But what I really want you to see here is on our labor time, because they had one change per day with the old filtration. But what we had with our filters when we put them in is they didn't have to change but once every 5 days. Okay, so they're only changing filters per day 0.2 because they lasted for 5 days. So we took a filtration that was obviously a lot less expensive than ours, and then we extended the longevity in that, which just by doing that increased their overall savings in labor costs, because they weren't changing these filters out, right, by a pretty substantial amount, right? I mean, 283 hours in a year are now gone because it took 45 to 50 minutes to make all these change outs. So if you look at the dollar saved for this customer, which is huge, if you're an end user out there and you're thinking, man, we're looking to cut costs, and I mean, what can we do? These are huge cost savings here from this one booth, because they saved about $25,000 a year by making this change. Now, our filters are way more expensive than what they were currently using, but because we were able to increase that longevity, give them more production time, the time they were using to change out filters, they were able to use to get other coatings on their product. So they began to put out more products a week. Those numbers aren't shown here, right? These are just if you're taking the filter cost and look at that. Now, for this end user, just to let everyone know, had 5 spray booths, 5. So they saved well over $100,000 a year by making this switch to this blanket material, right? And we have a superior filter, and we have a superior mounting system and the way to lay it out. Now the guys grab the blankets, they pull them across, and they run them in. So the savings is definitely there, and that's something that I wanted to share with you guys when you're looking to do a conversion for our distributor partners out there. Keep your eyes for this, and for an end user that's out there maybe in this exact situation, those numbers right there can really move a needle, and especially with the time in our country and where everybody's at right now in manufacturing and looking to cut costs. Examples like this, moving to the RP product, moving to the blanket media, can really add some numbers. These numbers don't include disposal costs or anything like that was saved. So, I hope that information made some sense to you. And I was afraid there was so many numbers up there that everybody would get lost in that. So I'm hoping that that wasn't the case. But our product information and things like that, we've created a lot of videos that are kind of and put them on our YouTube channel that are kind of adding a little more explanation to this. I'm trying to be fairly quick to be cognizant of everyone's time. But there's a little more explanation that we have on our YouTube and some videos that talk about the filter lock installation, the benefits of it. We have a video that just goes through very technically the installation of the filter lock, which again is just fastened to the sheet metal with tech screws or speed screws and a drill. It's done in our video with someone that had no hand tool experience whatsoever. And so it just kind of gives you an idea of how to install that. I'm afraid that the slide that I had that presented that never showed up to you guys, and I apologize for that. But you can definitely, I urge you to go and check those out. The filter installation time for the pad versus the blanket, we timed it by removing the pads and then reinstalling the pads, and we timed it by removing the blankets and reinstalling the blankets. So there's a lot of things we're trying to get going right there, and we just hope that you guys have an opportunity to go out there and and check those things out. So just to kind of finish up my presentation here with you guys, and as I just wanted to recap the incentives that we have going right now with CoolNet to help out our distribution base as well as our ultimate end user customers. out there. So, like I say, there's some return on investment by going from pads to blankets, or even going from a competitive filter to a Comet RP filter. You're going to save some time there in your change outs from pads to blankets. You're going to possibly save some filter costs from pads to blankets, but mostly, depending on the models that we're using, there are some cost savings there to go from one to the other. Right now, we have a promotion going with our 5-year warranty that if you purchase a new spray booth here, and I believe that the promotion is officially saying April, but I told everyone that I was going to extend that to May. So we're looking at April and May here of this month. If any booth that's ordered through Comet that applies for our warranty, that would be any booth that sprays wet paint. It would exclude powder, but any booth that sprays a wet coating and can utilize our W Series filtration. If you do that, we're going to send you an extra set of filters. So you actually get 2 change outs of filters for free. Just because you ran through that program. Comet, like I mentioned before, has went to blanket media as a standard in our booth. Is that we feel it's the best way to run the filtration. It's the best way for the end user. It's faster to change out. It's easier to handle. And we can get that 100% encapsulation that we don't have to worry about bypass. And so we're including the filter lock and the filter lock tool and all that. That's all included with the new booth. So if you did order a new booth and wanted it to have blankets, that's not a problem. There's no extra cost there. We're already including that. Now, one thing that we're really offering right now that I'm super excited about, and I really hope that it can reach out there and help somebody, is that we're offering 120-day payment terms if you convert from one of our competitors. So if you're using a fiberglass filter or a polyester filter from any manufacturer that's or even a Columbus slit and expanded paper, any of our competitors, it's not a Comet RP filter, then we want to offer 120-day terms to everyone on that. So that, right now everyone's looking to cut costs. Where some people are really trying to get back into production right now, but cost is still an issue. What we're willing to do is to reach out there and say, look, you don't have to pay us for 120 days on these filters. There's no limit to how many filters you can buy. I've said that I'll run a blanket PO through the end of the year if that's what we need to do, and we'll carry those 120-day terms through that blanket PO. Now, addition to that is that we're offering a free filter lock system. So if you're using pads now and you want to go to blankets, then we'll provide the whole filter lock track system to you at no cost. So I think those are some really big incentives, and I hope that they're out there that can really benefit someone that's listening on this webinar and understand that. So I guess I'll move to my next slide and just ask if there's any questions.
All right, Trey, we do have a whole series of questions that have come in. So I just want to mention, if you do have a question, please, you still have time to type it in and we'll address it now. Also, before I read the first question, I wanted to mention, don't forget to download your handout before you leave the presentation so you can get a copy of this, especially those slides on the ROI to help you figure what you might be saving by moving to RP filtration. Trey, our first question is in example 3, you talked about a facility that was changing filters every day. What kind of industry was that was switching them out every day?
Yeah, they were in the I guess we'd say the transportation industry. They were spraying a 2K zinc urethane primer and a 2K polyurethane automotive coating, and they were doing that, all in that one booth.
Okay. Our second question here, this is a good one. At our shop, we powder coat and we paint liquid in a 12 by 10 foot booth. Will the filters get clogged rapidly with using a wet and dry application?
Yeah, it's never ideal to use a powder booth and a spray booth with liquid coatings, with the same type of filtration. The liquid coating is going to, stick to the outer surface of the filtration, and it's going to impinge down into the filter, where the drier coating just kind of runs through, gets caught in the back tacky layer of the filter. So the W series and the RP paint arresters are that. They are designed for wet spray applications. That's their ultimate goal. Now, not to say that they can't filter out powder, but normally in a powder situation, you'd want to see a filter that has like a light tack or something like that on the back of it. Definitely a bag filter to give some life and some catch those fines that you would see in powder. So I would recommend that you reach out to your distributor or Comet, and we'll talk about that and try to figure out a better solution on the filters. But they will. It's not the ideal application to run the filters for both spray, wet spray, and powder coating.
All right, thank you, Trey. Another question here, is the blanket media equally as effective installed horizontally or vertically? My understanding is that the filter is supposed to be installed in a certain direction.
Yeah, so I will answer your question by saying yes, and because ultimately the construction of the slit and expanded paper creates a louver in that paper. So as we stretch it and expand it, it kind of opens up and creates like a shelf, right? So ultimately what we would want to do to have the most capture, where we have the minimal amount of runoff, would be to install the filter what would we call vertically. That would mean the sewn seams are vertical, and that front face louver is where it's pulled open. So if you ran your hand down that filter face, you'd want to feel those louvers sort of opening against you. When it's turned the other way, it's pretty obvious they just kind of close off. And the reason for that is because of that. So if we were spraying, like I made that example and I said something about the 2K polyurethane, right? That is really sticky stuff, and especially once it cures, it just hardens and spreads out. So if we were using our blanket turned upside down where the louvers would close, what would happen is those rocks and marbles would stick to that front face, and then as they got heavier through the day, they would try to push that louver closed, right? So if we turn it over, we get it to pull that front louver open. All right, so now to talk about one that's installed horizontally, which we see a lot inside downdraft booths. The example I gave in 3, we actually did run where the filter was turned horizontal. Now, did that filter last as long as it would if it had been vertical? I would say no. Now, because I wasn't able to pull that face open. Now, the construction of our slit and expanded paper, it's really kind of unique in the way that it works, and it performs in a way that you wouldn't expect. The filter is about an inch thick when it's went out, 3/4 to an inch, depending on the model. As it begins to take on overspray, it begins to kind of swell open. And what happens is those louvers begin to actually open up more. So because of this, even if it's mounted horizontal, it still helps to open itself up. Being that it's not being closed off by that louver being installed the other way, it still performs fairly well because of this unique characteristic of the slit and expanded paper to actually expand itself out and make itself, kind of as more depth or thicker, if you can visualize what I'm saying. So I guess in short, to answer your question again would be to this: if it's vertical, that is obviously the best performing characteristic or orientation for our type of filtration. Horizontal will perform and will perform very well. The only way that I would say I don't like to see it is upside down and vertical.
All right. Thank you, Trey. Another question here is, as you've mentioned that the booth shipping with blanket filters, will Comet still be offering booths with 20 by 20 filter grids or only blankets?
Okay, yes. So as a standard, they go out with blankets. If our distribution partner tells us that they would like 20 by 20 grids for whatever purpose, maybe they want to run dual stage filtration or a 3-stage or something like that down the line, that is perfectly fine. We just need to know that, at the time of order, and we'll go from there. If nothing's said about it, it will go out with blanket filtration.
Okay. Thank you. One more thing here, I think. Is there any opportunity to talk about free freight on less than a truckload? Is there any promotions or anything for that?
That is something that we've been looking at, like I say, with all the promotions that we've been going. And I know with filters, freight is a huge issue. And it's nothing that I have right now that I can offer. But we have been working really close with our freighting partners and our logistics people to try to come up with a program where we can offer that. And ultimately, I would like to be able to offer free freight on anything or a very minimal amount of freight. But unfortunately, at this time, we don't have a program that's been activated for that. But it is something that we are working to see if we can offer.
Okay, Trey, I'm sorry, we do have a few more that keep coming in here. What is the advantage of your W series filter versus, say, an Adresi filter?
So the Adresi filter is more of a separator. It's not necessarily a what we would call a filter. So it takes the air media, it changes directions rapidly to try to get the particulate to not be able to keep up and make that and kind of collide or impinge into the filter like through inertial impaction, right? So what happens with that is that works fine for larger overspray that, is higher on the atomization curve. Those are big enough particulates that can't make that turn. Your smaller particulates, things like that, are going to be able to make that turn and go around. If you're spraying an overspray coating that's not sticky, it's going to maybe bounce and come off of that cardboard type construction that's separating, and then just go through the baffling into the chamber and ultimately out. So, if you were spraying, something that just comes to mind, I don't know the industry where the question's coming from, but, if you were spraying something like a waterborne lacquer or something like that, you're gonna open your chamber up and it's going to look like someone snowed inside there, because all those fines are going to go through that type of filtration. Where the paint arrestor for the Comet RP filter is actually baffling out and trying to capture that particulate. So because of the polyester on the back at a microscopic level, we can intercept a lot of those smaller particulates. We will get some that impinge, but we were able to intercept a lot of those smaller ones just because of the fiber makeup of the polyester. So that's really the biggest difference between any type of separator filter versus an actual true filter.
Okay, thanks, Trey. And I only have 2 questions left. This next one is, if, say, a customer or, say, someone converts to blankets and say maybe they don't like it, can they go back to the old system?
Yeah, because the filter lock system is very simple to install. Like we said, it just fastens around the filter frame. So nothing changes with the filter frame itself. So you can just as easily to say, hey, you know what, I'm not going to hang a blanket anymore and use your booth, or you could go so far to just back off the filter track and fill up the holes or whatever that was made by the small tech screws, or could just leave it. Also an advantage of converting a booth that's already been using 20 by 20s is it gives you the ability to easily go to a 2-stage filtration, because you already have the 20 by 20 cells, you're already set up for it, and you can lay a blanket over the top of it. So that's just kind of an extra bonus there also.
All right. And this is the last question here, Trey. Thank you for all the answers that you're giving. Do you have any type of a chart that gives any type of static pressure on the different filters?
I don't have a chart put together with all the different models. I do have that information available through our literature that does give out the initial resistance of each filter model. And Judy, you may know better than me, but I believe that's available on our website, is it not?
Yes, it is, sir.
Okay, so I would encourage you to go to the website and grab our literature for our filter products. Like I say, that we take the actual testing results. We have all of our filters third-party tested for efficiency and overall arrestance, and that information is put into the literature. So you'll see the initial resistance of each filter, which due to the construction of our filter is very low. You're looking at 150 feet per minute. You're looking somewhere around 0.02 inches of water column. And I think if you're looking at even a W series, a 5200 W series, I believe you're only seeing like 0.03 or 0.04, somewhere in there as far as resistance. When compared to something like a paint pocket, for example, would be like 0.08, to start out. So you're going to see a lot less initial resistance out of our filtration, which is beneficial because that means that your fan for your booth can actually run longer. You can actually load longer than what you could before because you have that additional static available to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Trey. If you wouldn't mind, quickly before we log off here, could you go to the next slide? Appreciate that. On the next slide here that Trey's going to, you'll see this is a listing of all the Colmet personnel in your local areas. The map on the right shows the territories and the person you would need to contact if you have any questions on any of the information that Trey talked about today. And then on the left side is the individual with their contact information. On the next slide, Trey, he had mentioned that the Colmet website, it's a great resource tool. I'm sorry, I'll let you quickly get to that. The Colmet website here, it's a great resource tool. We have all of our literature there, so please check it out. And then this slide here, oops, there it is. This is some of the literature that we've shown. We have a flyer here on the filter lock, which can be taken from the website. And then there's the RP and the W series on the side there. And then Trey, if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide. One more slide, please. A little bit delayed here. It must be the weather. Here's the upcoming webinars. As we mentioned, if you haven't signed up, please sign up to join us. And then one more slide, which is just our summary slide here with the Colmet YouTube channel that all these videos will be posted. Trey, just maybe click twice.
Yeah, it's there. It just hasn't. Here it comes.
There you go. Okay, there's the Colmet YouTube channel. And again, all these videos will be posted there. So if there was something Trey talked about today, you can always go to our YouTube channel tomorrow and watch this video again because it is recorded and kind of see if there was something that you missed. And that pretty much, one more slide, just says thank you very much for attending today. We appreciate you joining us. And that will conclude our webinar for today. Thanks, Trey.
Well, thank you, everyone.